The small aircraft shudders violently as lightning splits the Montana sky. Emma clutches the armrest, her knuckles white, her wedding ring catching the dim cabin light. Beside her, the seat where her husband should be sitting remains empty. 24 hours ago, she stood at the altar in a white gown, believing she had found her forever. Now she is alone in a 6-seater plane, descending through a storm that seems determined to swallow her whole. The pilot's voice comes through the intercom, calm and controlled despite the chaos outside. "We're going to make an emergency landing, hold on." Emma presses her forehead against the cold window. Through the rain-streaked glass, she can see nothing but darkness and the occasional flash of lightning illuminating jagged mountain peaks far too close for comfort. Her heart pounds against her ribs like a trapped bird. She thinks of Daniel, her husband of one day, who left their honeymoon suite in Bozeman this morning with a cryptic phone call, and never returned. She thinks of the note she found on the hotel pillow 3 hours later. "I'm sorry, this was a mistake. Don't look for me." The plane drops suddenly, and Emma's stomach lurches. She grips the seat harder, closing her eyes, whispering prayers she hasn't spoken since childhood. The engines whine in protest against the wind. Rain hammers the fuselage like thousands of tiny fists demanding entry. In the cockpit, through the half-open door, she catches a glimpse of the pilot. Broad shoulders, dark hair, hands moving with precision across the controls. He hasn't looked back at her once since takeoff from the small regional airport where she'd arrived in tears, begging for passage to Seattle. She'd offered double the fare for a charter flight, desperate to escape Montana. To escape the humiliation, to escape the wreckage of her 3-year relationship that had imploded before the wedding cake was even cut. The pilot had studied her for a long moment, with eyes the color of storm clouds, grey and deep and impossible to read. Then he'd nodded once and gestured toward the cabin. Now those same steady hands are fighting to keep them alive. "Brace yourself," his voice commands through the speaker. No fear, no hesitation, just absolute authority. Emma leans forward, wrapping her arms around her knees, tucking her head down. The plane tilts sharply to the left, then rights itself. She can hear the pilot speaking rapidly into his radio, coordinates and technical jargon. She doesn't understand. The response is static and broken words, then nothing. They're alone. The landing comes without warning. One moment they're descending through clouds, the next the wheels are slamming against earth. The impact throws Emma against her seatbelt, the restraint cutting across her chest. The plane bounces, skids, spins. She screams as the world becomes a blur of motion and sound. Metal groans. Glass shatters somewhere. Then, finally, mercifully, everything stops. Silence. The E. Engines have died. Rain continues to pound the roof, but it sounds distant now, muffled. Emma opens her eyes slowly, afraid of what she might see. The cabin is intact, tilted at an angle, but intact. Her bag has tumbled from the overhead compartment and lies at her feet. Her hands are shaking so badly she can barely unfasten her seatbelt. "Are you hurt?" She looks up. The pilot is standing in the cockpit doorway, silhouetted against the dim emergency lights. He's tall, well over 6 feet, with the kind of presence that makes the small cabin feel even smaller. His face is angular, almost severe, softened only slightly by the concern evident in his furrowed brow. "I don't think so," Emma manages to say. Her voice sounds foreign to her own ears, small and fragile. Are we alive?" Something that might be the ghost of a smile crosses his face. "We are. The plane isn't doing as well." He moves toward her with a grace that seems impossible given the tilted floor. Up close, she notices details she missed before, a thin scar running along his jaw, the expensive watch on his wrist, incongruous with his simple leather jacket and jeans. The way his eyes scan her body, not with interest but with clinical assessment, checking for injuries. "Can you stand?" Emma nods and attempts to rise. Her legs buckle immediately, and she would have fallen if he hadn't caught her. His hands are warm and strong against her arms, steadying her with effortless ease. "Easy," he murmurs. "Take your time." "I'm fine," she insists, though she's clearly not. Tears are streaming down her face without her permission, a delayed reaction to terror and grief and exhaustion. "I just need a minute." He doesn't release her. Instead, he guides her to sit on the armrest of an intact seat, positioning himself between her and the shattered window where rain is beginning to seep through. "The radio's dead," he says matter-of-factly. "We're about 30 miles from the nearest town, in the middle of the Bitterroot Mountains. The storm should pass by morning. Until then, we stay with the plane." Emma wipes her eyes with the back of her hand. "What about rescue? Won't someone come looking for us?" "Eventually. I filed a flight plan. When we don't arrive in Seattle on schedule, they'll start searching." He pauses. "But in this weather, in these mountains, it could be a while." She looks around the damaged cabin, at the rain pooling on the floor, at the darkness pressing against every window. "So we're stuck here. We're safe here," he corrects her. "There's a difference." Emma wants to argue. She wants to scream that nothing about this situation is safe, that nothing about her life is safe, that she's been abandoned by the man she loved on what should have been the happiest day of her life, and now she's stranded in the wilderness with a stranger. But the pilot is already moving, pulling emergency supplies from a compartment beneath the seats. A first aid kit, thermal blankets, water bottles. He works with the efficiency of someone who has prepared for disaster many times before. "What's your name?" she asks suddenly. He glances at her, those grey eyes unreadable. For a moment, she thinks he won't answer. "Marcus," he says finally. "Marcus Donovan. I'm Emma. Emma." She hesitates on her married name, the name she'd taken less than 36 hours ago. "Just Emma." Marcus nods as if he understands far more than she said. He hands her a thermal blanket, silver and rustling. "Get warm, Emma. It's going to be a long night." She wraps the blanket around her shoulders, watching as he continues to secure the cabin. He moves with purpose, never wasting motion, never showing fear. There's something about his calm that anchors her, pulls her back from the edge of panic she's been teetering on since Daniel walked out. "You're good at this," she observes. "Emergencies." Marcus pauses in his work. "I've had practice." "Were you military?" "Something like that." His non-answer tells her everything and nothing. Emma decides not to push. She's too tired, too broken, too overwhelmed to play detective with a stranger. Instead, she leans her head against the cold wall of the plane and closes her eyes. "He left me," she hears herself say. The words come unbidden, as if the darkness and the storm have conspired to strip away her defenses. "My husband. We got married yesterday morning. By last night he was gone. No explanation, no warning, just gone." The cabin is quiet except for the rain. Emma opens her eyes to find Marcus watching her with an expression she can't decipher. "Some men don't deserve what they're given," he says quietly. Emma laughs, but it comes out more like a sob. "I thought I knew him. 3 years together. 3 years of planning a future, building a life. And it turns out I didn't know him at all." Marcus doesn't offer platitudes or false comfort. He simply listens, his presence solid and strangely reassuring in the chaos. "Why, were you going to Seattle?" he asks. "My sister lives there. I didn't know where else to go." Emma pulls the blanket tighter. "I couldn't stay in Montana, not in that hotel room, not surrounded by all those wedding gifts we'll never use." "Seattle is a good place to disappear," Marcus says, and something in his tone suggests he speaks from experience. "Is that what you do? Help people disappear?" For the first time since they met, genuine amusement flickers across his severe features. In a manner of speaking. Before Emma can ask what that means, a sound cuts through the storm. Not thunder, not wind. Something mechanical. She sits up straight, hope flaring in her chest. Is that a helicopter? Marcus is already at the window, peering into the darkness. His body has gone rigid, all that earlier calm replaced by something sharp and alert. When he turns back to her, his expression has changed. "Stay away from the windows," he orders, "and keep quiet." "What? Why?" "If it's rescue, It's not rescue. He crosses to her in 2 strides, pulling her down into the shadows between the seats. Whatever happens, whatever you hear, stay hidden. Do you understand? Emma's heart is racing again, but this time it's not fear of the crash. It's fear of the man before her, of the sudden intensity in his eyes, of the way his hand has moved to rest on something beneath his jacket. Marcus. What's going on? The helicopter sound grows louder, closer. Searchlights sweep across the mountainside, briefly illuminating the crashed plane. Marcus's jaw tightens. I'll explain everything, but not now. Right now, I need you to trust me. I don't even know you. No, he agrees. You don't. But those men in that helicopter? They're not here to help you, Emma. They're here because of me. Emma stares at him, her mind struggling to process his words. The searchlights pass over them again, and in that moment of clarity, she sees it. The way Marcus holds himself. The dangerous edge beneath his composure. The scar on his jaw that suddenly looks less like an accident and more like a history. Who are you? She whispers. Marcus Donovan meets her eyes, and for the first time, she sees something human beneath the armor. Regret, perhaps, or resignation. Someone who should have warned you before you got on this plane, he says. Someone who just made your very bad day considerably worse. The helicopter banks and turns, heading away from their position. But Emma knows, with a certainty that settles like ice in her stomach, that this is far from over. She is stranded in the Montana wilderness. She has been abandoned by her husband, and the man who just saved her life may be the most dangerous person she has ever met. Check if you are already subscribed to this channel. If you love stories that make you feel every heartbeat, every tear, every twist of fate, then you belong here. Subscribe now to follow Emma's journey and never miss a moment of what happens next. The tow. Helicopter doesn't return that night. Marcus keeps watch anyway, his silhouette visible against the emergency lights whenever Emma drifts in and out of uneasy sleep. By morning, the storm has passed, leaving behind a world washed clean and glittering with moisture. Sunlight streams through the cracked windows of the downed aircraft, revealing the full extent of the damage. One wing is crumpled against a massive pine tree. The tail section is bent at an angle that makes Emma wince just looking at it. That they survived at all seems miraculous. We need to move, Marcus announces, his voice pulling her fully awake. He's standing by the emergency exit, a backpack slung over one shoulder. His appearance has changed in the light of day, more rugged, more weathered, more real. Emma struggles to sit up, every muscle in her body protesting. The thermal blanket falls away, revealing her wrinkled clothes. The elegant traveling outfit she'd chosen for her honeymoon journey now looks absurd. Silk, blouse, designer jeans, heeled boots entirely unsuitable for mountain terrain. Another reminder of how thoroughly her life has gone off course. Move where? She asks. You said rescue would come. Rescue might come, Marcus corrects her, but those men from last night will definitely come. And when they find this plane, I'd rather not be in it. Emma remembers the helicopter, the searchlights, the cold certainty in Marcus's voice when he told her to hide. Questions crowd her mind, but she pushes them aside. Survival first, answers later. What about my things? Marcus gestures toward a small pile near the exit. Her purse, her phone, a bottle of water. I grabbed what I could. Your phone's dead. No signal out here anyway. She nods and pushes herself to her feet. Her body sways, still adjusting to solid ground after hours of tilted cabin floor. Marcus doesn't reach for her this time. He simply waits, giving her the space to find her own balance. I'm not exactly dressed for hiking, she admits, looking down at her impractical boots. Something shifts in Marcus's expression, not quite sympathy, but close. He reaches into his backpack and produces a pair of worn hiking boots. These might work. They'll be big, but better than heels. Emma takes them, surprised by the thoughtfulness. You just happen to carry women's hiking boots? They belong to someone who doesn't need them anymore. His tone closes the door on further questions about that particular subject. She changes her footwear without comment, stuffing her ruined heels into her bag. The boots are indeed too large, but with thick socks added, they're manageable. When she's ready, Marcus leads the way out of the wreckage. The Montana wilderness stretches before them in every direction, dense forest carpeted with pine needles and autumn leaves. Mountain peaks still wearing caps of early snow. The air is sharp and cold and impossibly fresh, scented with earth and evergreen. Under different circumstances, Emma might have found it beautiful. Now it just looks endless. "Where are we going?" she asks as they begin walking. "I have a place about 15 miles north, off-grid, safe." "Safe from whom?" Marcus doesn't answer immediately. They walk in silence for several minutes, picking their way through underbrush and over fallen logs. He moves like someone who knows this terrain, who has navigated it many times before. "The men in the helicopter," he finally says, "work for a man named Victor Castellano. He runs operations out of Chicago, but his reach extends across the country. Drugs, weapons, trafficking, nothing is beneath him." Emma's stomach tightens. "And what does he want with you?" "A debt," Marcus replies. His voice is flat, emotionless. "My father owed him money, a lot of money. When he died, the debt passed to me. I've been paying it off for the past 8 years. But recently, I decided I was done paying." "So he sent people after you?" Victor doesn't tolerate defiance. To him, it's not about the money, it's about control, about making an example. Emma processes this information as they walk. The Mafia, she's heard the word before, in movies and news reports, always distant and abstract. Now she's walking through a forest with a man who apparently has ties to that world. "You're a pilot," she says slowly. "Is that how you pay? Flying things for him?" Marcus's jaw tightens. "I fly things for myself. That's always been my business." But yes, there were times when the cargo wasn't entirely legal. And now? Now I'm trying to build something legitimate. A charter service, search and rescue contracts, cargo transport, all above board. He glances at her over his shoulder. "I'm not a good man, Emma. I've done things I'm not proud of, but I'm trying to be better." The confession hangs in the air between them. Emma considers how she should feel. Scared, probably. Angry, certainly. She's been dragged into a dangerous situation, through no fault of her own, just because she happened to need a flight at the wrong moment from the wrong airport. But when she searches her heart, she finds something unexpected, understanding maybe, or recognition. Because isn't she also running from the wreckage of bad choices? Isn't she also trying to rebuild a life that has crumbled around her? "My husband," she says quietly, "wasn't who I thought he was either." Marcus stops walking and turns to face her. The morning light catches the grey of his eyes, making them look almost silver. "What do you mean?" "Daniel. He seemed so perfect. Successful attorney, charming, attentive. Everyone said we were the ideal couple. But there were signs I ignored. Late nights at the office, phone calls he'd take in another room, money that appeared and disappeared without explanation." "You think he was involved in something illegal?" Emma shrugs helplessly. "I don't know what to think anymore. All I know is that he married me on Saturday and abandoned me on Sunday. Either he's running from something, or he used me as a cover for something, or..." She trails off, unable to complete the thought. "Or he's a coward who got what he wanted and left," Marcus finishes for her. The bluntness should sting, but it doesn't. It feels honest, real, more than anything anyone has said to her since Daniel walked out. "Maybe," she admits. They resume walking. The terrain grows steeper, and Emma finds herself breathing harder. Despite her regular yoga classes and occasional jogging, she's not prepared for mountain hiking. But she refuses to complain, refuses to be the helpless woman who slows them down. "You're tougher than you look," Marcus observes after an hour of silent climbing. "I was raised by a single mother who worked 3 jobs, Emma replies. She didn't believe in quitting. Where is she now? Passed away 2 years ago, heart attack. Emma's voice catches slightly. She never got to see me get married. Maybe that was a blessing. Marcus doesn't respond, but he slows his pace slightly, allowing her to walk beside him rather than behind. As the sun climbs higher, the forest begins to thin. They emerge onto a ridge overlooking a vast valley carpeted in gold and green. In the distance, Emma can see a river winding through the landscape like a silver ribbon. The view is breathtaking, the kind of scenery that belongs on postcards and travel magazines. "We'll rest here," Marcus says, setting down his pack. He produces energy bars and more water, dividing them evenly between them. Emma sinks onto a boulder, grateful for the chance to sit. Her new boots have rubbed blisters on her heels, and her legs are trembling from exertion. But something in her feels stronger too. Cleaner. As if the physical challenge has burned away some of the emotional weight she's been carrying. "How much farther?" she asks. "About 8 more miles. We should arrive before sunset." "And then what?" Marcus unwraps an energy bar, considering the question. "Then we figure out your situation. Get you to Seattle if that's still what you want. But first, we need to disappear long enough for Victor's men to lose the trail." "What about you? What happens when they realize you've slipped away?" "That's my problem, not yours." Emma shakes her head. "I'm involved now, whether I like it or not. If those men find me, they'll assume I know something. They'll want to question me. Which is why you're coming with me, at least until things cool down." She studies his profile against the mountain backdrop. He looks tired, she realizes. There are shadows under his eyes that weren't visible in the dim cabin light last night. He's been awake for over 24 hours, managing an emergency landing, keeping watch through the storm, and now guiding her through the wilderness. Yet he shows no signs of slowing down. "Why are you helping me?" she asks. "You could have left me at the plane, could have told me to wait for rescue." Marcus turns to meet her gaze. For a long moment he says nothing. "Because you looked at me last night like I was your only hope," he says finally. "And I've been in that position before, desperate, alone, looking at someone and praying they'd have the decency to help." "Did they?" "No." His voice holds an ocean of old pain. "They didn't." The admission creates an unexpected bridge between them. Two strangers from different worlds, both familiar with abandonment, both carrying wounds they don't discuss. "My sister will be worried," Emma says, breaking the emotional tension. "We were supposed to meet for dinner tonight. When I don't show up and can't be reached, is there anyone else? Someone who could contact her?" "Not really. Daniel handled most of our social life. I've been realizing these past 2 days how isolated I let myself become. My friends were really his friends. My world was really his world." "That's not unusual," Marcus says. "Certain men prefer it that way. It makes control easier." Emma flinches at the word. "He never controlled me. He was always the one with the plans, the connections, the answers. It was easier to let him lead." "Until he led you off a cliff." She can't argue with that. Instead, she finishes her energy bar in silence, staring out at the valley below. "When we get to your place," she says eventually, "I need to find a way to contact Sarah, my sister, even if it's just to let her know I'm alive. We'll figure it out. I have equipment that should help." Marcus stands, shouldering his pack again. He extends a hand to help Emma up, and she takes it without hesitation. His grip is firm and warm, and for just a moment she feels something other than grief and fear, something that might be the first seed of trust. They continue their trek as the afternoon unfolds. Marcus points out landmarks as they go. A waterfall cascading down a distant cliff, an eagle's nest in a dead pine, bear tracks crossing their path, making Emma's heart stutter until Marcus assures her the prints are days old. He knows this wilderness intimately, and she finds herself wondering how long he's been coming here, what he's been running from, who he was before Victor Castellano's shadow fell across his life. By late afternoon, Emma is operating on pure determination. Every step is an act of will, every breath a conscious effort. But she refuses to ask Marcus to slow down further. She can see the tension in his shoulders, the way his eyes constantly scan their surroundings. He's worried about pursuit, about the men who might be tracking them even now. "Almost there," he says, reading her exhaustion. The cabin appears through the trees like something from a dream, small but solid, built of logs weathered to silver grey. Smoke rises from a stone chimney, suggesting someone has been here recently. A covered porch wraps around the front, furnished with handmade chairs and a wooden swing. Beyond the cabin, Emma can see a cleared area where a small helicopter sits beneath a camouflage tarp. "You have another helicopter?" she asks, surprised. "Backup plan. Always have a backup plan." They approach the cabin, and Marcus produces a key from a hidden compartment in one of the porch posts. The door swings open to reveal a single large room, warm and surprisingly comfortable. A fire crackles in the stone fireplace. A kitchen area occupies one corner, well stocked with supplies. A bed covered in quilts sits against the far wall, and a worn, leather couch faces the hearth. "Make yourself at home," Marcus says, dropping his pack by the door. "There's a bathroom through there. Hot water tank should still be working." Emma doesn't need to be told twice. The thought of washing away 2 days of fear and travel grime is almost overwhelming in its appeal. She finds the small bathroom, complete with a clawfoot tub that looks like paradise after everything she's endured. 30 minutes later, scrubbed clean and wrapped in a flannel robe, found hanging behind the door, Emma emerges to find Marcus at the stove. The smell of cooking food fills the cabin, making her stomach growl audibly. "Canned soup and fresh bread," he announces. "Nothing fancy, but it's hot." They eat in comfortable silence at a small wooden table by the window. Outside, the sun is setting behind the mountains, painting the sky in shades of pink and gold. It's beautiful, Emma thinks. Devastatingly beautiful. And here she is, eating soup with a man who smuggles for the Mafia, while her husband is somewhere out there having thrown away their marriage like yesterday's trash. "How are you feeling?" Marcus asks. "Physically? Exhausted? Emotionally?" "I don't even know." She sets down her spoon. "This time yesterday I was still hoping Daniel would come back, still making excuses. Maybe there was an emergency. Maybe he'd been hurt. Maybe he needed time to process cold feet. And now? Now I just want to understand why, not to forgive him, just to make sense of it." Marcus nods slowly. "Understanding rarely brings the peace we hope for. Sometimes the only answer is that people make choices we'll never comprehend." "Speaking from experience?" "My father," he says, the word carrying weight. "He made choices that affected our entire family. When he died, he left behind more debts than assets, more enemies than friends. I spent years trying to understand why. Eventually I realized it didn't matter. The damage was done. The only question that mattered was what I was going to do about it." Emma considers this perspective. Perhaps Marcus is right. Perhaps hunting for Daniel's reasons is just another way of avoiding her own healing. "What would you do," she asks, "if you were me?" "I'd mourn what I thought I had," Marcus answers without hesitation. "Then I'd burn it down and start fresh." "Burn it down?" "Metaphorically. Let go of the expectations, the timelines, the picture of your life you'd been building. All of that is gone now. Trying to hold on to it will only keep you trapped." "That sounds terrifying." "It is." He meets her eyes across the table. "But it's also freedom." The word hangs in the air between them, glowing like an ember in the fireplace. Freedom. Emma has been so busy being a good partner, a reliable fiancée, a perfect bride, that she's forgotten what it feels like to simply be herself. "I don't even know who I am without him," she admits quietly. "We were together since I was 25. That's a third of my life. All my adult decisions were made with him in mind." "Then maybe this is your chance to find out." Emma laughs softly, though there's little humor in it. "Find myself in a wilderness cabin while hiding from the Mafia. That wasn't exactly in my self-discovery plan." Marcus's lips twitch. Life rarely follows the plan. After dinner, he shows her the communication equipment he mentioned. A satellite phone, solar-powered, kept in a locked case beneath the floorboards. Emma's hands tremble as she dials her sister's number. Sarah answers on the second ring, her voice high with worry. "Hello? Emma? Is that you?" "It's me," Emma says, and promptly bursts into tears. The conversation is difficult. She can't explain everything. Can't mention Marcus or the crash or the men pursuing them. She tells Sarah only that she's safe, that Daniel is gone, that she needs time before coming to Seattle. Sarah protests, demands details, threatens to call the police. But eventually, Emma convinces her to wait. A few days, just a few days. "I love you," Sarah says before they hang up. "Whatever happened, we'll figure it out together." "I love you too." Emma ends the call and hands the phone back to Marcus. Her tears have subsided, leaving her feeling hollow and wrung out. "She'll worry," she says. "Sisters always do." There's something wistful in his tone, making Emma wonder if he has siblings of his own. Night has fully fallen. Through the window, stars are beginning to emerge, more than Emma has ever seen in her city life. The fire crackles warmly, casting dancing shadows on the log walls. "You should sleep," Marcus tells her. "Take the bed. I'll keep watch." "All night?" "As long as necessary." Emma wants to argue, but exhaustion has caught up with her. Her body aches in places she didn't know could ache. Her mind is foggy with fatigue. "Wake me if anything happens," she says, moving toward the bed. "I will." She pauses at the edge of the quilt-covered mattress. "Marcus, thank you for everything." He nods once, then turns to face the window and the darkness beyond. Emma crawls beneath the quilts, surrounded by the scent of cedar and wood smoke. She should feel terrified, she thinks, stranded in the wilderness with a criminal stranger while dangerous men hunt them. But as her eyes drift closed, she feels something unexpected. Safe. For the first time in longer than she can remember, she feels safe. Emma wakes to sunlight streaming through the cabin, windows and the smell of coffee. For a moment, disorientation clouds her mind. Where is she? Why does her body ache? Then memory crashes back, and she sits up abruptly, heart pounding. Marcus is at the kitchen counter, pouring 2 mugs. He looks different in the morning light, less severe, almost domestic. "Good morning," he says, bringing her a cup. "How did you sleep?" "Better than I expected." She accepts the coffee gratefully, wrapping her hands around its warmth. "Did anything happen during the night?" "Quiet. Either they lost our trail or they're regrouping." He settles into a chair by the fireplace, which has been freshly stoked. "I reached out to some contacts this morning. Victor's men are still in the area, but they're searching about 20 miles south of here. We have a window." "A window for what?" "For getting you out. There's a small airstrip about 50 miles north. A friend of mine runs charter services, legal ones. He can get you to Seattle." Emma should feel relieved. This is what she wanted, to reach Sarah, to escape the nightmare. But something catches in her chest at the thought of leaving. "What about you?" she asks. "I'll stay here, draw their attention, give you time to disappear." "That's insane. You'll be alone against who knows how many men." Marcus shrugs as if they're discussing nothing more significant than weather. "I know these mountains better than anyone Victor could send. I'll be fine." "You don't know that." "No, but it's my problem, not yours." Emma sets down her coffee cup with more force than intended. "Stop saying that. You saved my life. You brought me here. You've shown me more kindness in 2 days than my husband showed in 3 years. I'm not just going to fly away and pretend none of this happened." Something flickers in Marcus's grey eyes. Surprise, maybe, or something deeper. "You don't owe me anything, Emma." "This isn't about owing. It's about—" She struggles to find the right words. "It's about not being the person who walks away, not being Daniel." The name hangs between them, heavy with implication. Marcus is quiet for a long moment. "What are you suggesting?" he finally asks. "I don't know. I just know I'm tired of running, tired of letting other people make decisions that affect my life." She stands pacing the small cabin. "For 2 days I've been reacting. To Daniel leaving, to the storm, to the crash, to you. Maybe it's time I started acting." "Acting how?" Emma stops by the window, staring, out at the mountain wilderness. Somewhere out there, men are searching for them. Somewhere out there, her husband is living whatever secret life he's been hiding, and somewhere deep inside her, a flame is beginning to kindle. You said you're trying to build something legitimate, she says, turning to face Marcus. What if you had help? His eyebrows rise. What kind of help? I was a project manager before I met Daniel. I organized campaigns, managed teams, handled logistics. I'm good at it. She takes a breath. What if I stayed? Just until things settle down. I could help you establish your charter business, create systems, build a real operation. You'd be putting yourself in danger. I'm already in danger. At least this way I'm choosing it. Marcus studies her for a long moment, his expression unreadable. Then, slowly, something that might be respect crosses his features. You really are tougher than you look, he says. My mother would be proud. They spend the morning planning. Marcus spreads maps across the table, explaining his current operations, his contacts, his vision for the future. Emma asks questions, takes notes, begins to see possibilities. Despite everything, despite the danger and the uncertainty, she feels more engaged than she has in years, more alive. By afternoon, they've outlined a 3-month plan. Marcus will continue his search and rescue contracts while Emma establishes administrative systems. They'll avoid Victor's territory, build relationships in new markets, create a legitimate business that can survive scrutiny. It's ambitious, it's probably foolish, but it feels right in a way nothing has felt right since she walked down that aisle. We should practice, Marcus says, rising from the table. If you're going to stay, you need to know how to handle yourself. Practice what? He leads her outside, where the afternoon sun casts long shadows across the clearing. From a storage shed, he produces basic equipment, a compass, a topographical map, a radio. Navigation first, he says. If we ever get separated, you need to know how to find your way. What follows is an intensive lesson in wilderness survival. Marcus is a patient teacher, demanding but encouraging. He shows her how to read terrain, how to find water, how to build a shelter from natural materials. By sunset, Emma's hands are scratched and dirty, her muscles burning, but she's learned more practical skills in one afternoon than she'd acquired in years of comfortable city living. Not bad for day one, Marcus concedes as they walk back to the cabin. I have a good teacher. Inside, they prepare dinner together. The domesticity of the moment strikes Emma as surreal. Here she is, cooking beside a man she met 2 days ago during a plane crash, while her husband is missing and criminals are hunting them. It should feel wrong. It doesn't. Tell me about your father, she says as they eat, if you don't mind. Marcus is quiet for a moment, his fork suspended halfway to his mouth. He was a pilot like me, taught me everything I know about flying, but he was also a gambler. He'd make good money, then lose it all on bad bets. Eventually, he started taking jobs for people he shouldn't have. Quick money to cover his debts. Like Victor Castellano? Victor came later. First, it was smaller operations, running cargo that didn't need questions asked, then bigger ones, more dangerous. By the time Victor entered the picture, my father was already in too deep to refuse. What happened to him? Marcus sets down his fork. Heart attack, 3 years ago. He was 52. There's no emotion in his voice, but his eyes tell a different story. He died, owing Victor nearly $2 million. Emma's breath catches. 2 million? Gambling debts, bad investments, borrowing against future jobs he never completed. Victor gave me a choice, pay it back or pay the other way. So you've been working off his debt ever since? Flying, transporting. Things I didn't ask about, being available when Victor needed me. Marcus's jaw tightens. Until 6 months ago, I looked in the mirror one morning and realized I'd become my father, making excuses, taking one more job, telling myself it was almost over. What changed? A job went wrong. People got hurt. Not killed, but close enough. He meets her eyes. I walked away, told Victor I was done, that I'd find another way to settle the debt. And he didn't accept that. Victor doesn't accept anything less than complete control. which is why his men have been hunting me ever since. The weight of his story settles over Emma. She thinks of her own father, absent since she was 8, of Daniel, absent now in a different way, of all the men who have walked through her life leaving wreckage behind. But Marcus is different. Marcus is still here, still fighting, still trying to be better. "I'm sorry," she says, "for all of it." "Don't be sorry. Just help me make it mean something." There's a vulnerability in his words that catches Emma off guard. She reaches across the table and covers his hand with hers. The gesture is impulsive, instinctive, and entirely right. "We'll make it mean something," she promises. "Together." They sit like that for a long moment, connected by touch and shared understanding. Outside, the wind has picked up, and somewhere in the distance, a wolf howls at the rising moon. "It's getting late," Marcus says eventually. "We should rest. Tomorrow might be challenging." Emma doesn't ask why. She's learning to trust his instincts, to read the subtle warnings in his tone. This time, when she climbs into bed, Marcus doesn't take up his position by the window. Instead, he settles onto the couch, still alert, but allowing himself some measure of rest. "Marcus," Emma says into the darkness. "Yes?" "I'm glad I got on your plane." A soft sound that might be a laugh. Most people would consider that the worst luck of their lives. "I'm not most people." "No," he agrees quietly. "You're not." Emma falls asleep with those words warming her heart, and for the first time since her wedding day, she doesn't dream of Daniel at all. If this story is touching your heart right now, I need you to do something. Leave a comment below saying, "Even the darkest storms can lead us to exactly where we need to be." I want to see how many of you believe that fate sometimes breaks us so that better things can find us. Leave that comment right now. The sound of rotor blades wakes Emma just before dawn. She sits up in bed, heart racing, as Marcus is already on his feet, pulling on boots and jacket with practiced efficiency. "They found us?" she asks, though she already knows the answer. "Not yet, but they're close. We need to move." There's no time for breakfast, no time for the coffee she's come to associate with this cabin. Emma dresses quickly in clothes Marcus has provided from a storage trunk. Practical hiking gear, dark colors, layers for warmth. She's becoming someone different, she realizes. Someone who can adapt, who can survive. They exit through the back door as the helicopter sound grows louder. Marcus leads her into the trees, moving fast but quiet, following paths invisible to untrained eyes. The pre-dawn forest is full of shadows and mist, the air cold enough to see their breath. "Where are we going?" Emma whispers. "There's a cave system about 2 miles north. We'll wait there until they've searched and moved on." The hike is brutal, uphill through dense underbrush, over rocky terrain that threatens to twist an ankle with every step. Emma's muscles scream in protest, still recovering from yesterday's training. But she doesn't slow down. She can't afford to. Behind them, the helicopter circles the cabin area. Through gaps in the trees, Emma catches glimpses of men rappelling down, weapons drawn. The reality of the danger hits her viscerally. These aren't movie villains. These are trained operatives willing to do whatever it takes to capture Marcus. "Keep moving," Marcus urges, sensing her hesitation. They reach the cave entrance as the sun begins to rise. It's hidden behind a waterfall, the roar of cascading water masking any sounds they might make. Marcus guides her through the curtain of spray into a surprisingly large cavern beyond. "We wait here," he says, producing a flashlight from his pack. "They'll search the cabin, find evidence we were there, and assume we're running. Their patterns are predictable. Sweep and move. How long? Few hours. Maybe less if we're lucky." Emma sinks onto a rock, her legs giving out. The cave is cold and damp, but it's shelter, safety, at least temporarily. "This is my fault," Marcus says quietly. "What?" "This, all of it. You should be in Seattle with your sister. Instead, you're hiding in a cave because I dragged you into my problems." Emma shakes her head firmly. "You didn't drag me. I chose to stay, remember? You chose because you didn't fully understand the risks. I chose because running away felt worse than standing beside someone who needed help. She meets his eyes in the dim light. I've done enough running, Marcus. From my feelings, from confrontation, from the truth about my marriage. I'm done. Marcus is quiet for a moment. Then he moves to sit beside her, close enough that their shoulders almost touch. My father used to say that courage isn't the absence of fear, he says. It's being afraid and doing what needs to be done. Anyway. Sounds like a wise man. He was, sometimes, when he wasn't destroying everything he touched. Emma hears the conflict in his voice. Love and resentment, grief and anger, all tangled together in ways that may never be fully sorted. I think you're more like him than you realize, she says gently. The good parts, I mean. The wisdom, the courage. Or I inherited his talent for dragging innocent people into danger. I'm not innocent, Emma replies. I may have been naive, sheltered, willing to ignore what was in front of my face, but I'm not a victim, Marcus, not anymore. Something shifts in his expression. Respect, perhaps, or recognition of a kindred spirit. No, he agrees. You're definitely not. They sit in silence as the morning passes. The helicopter comes and goes several times, each pass sending Emma's heart into her throat. But the waterfall does its job, concealing them from sight and sound. Around midday, Marcus checks his radio. Encrypted communications with his network of contacts, men and women who exist in the grey zones between legal and illegal, who help each other survive. They're pulling back, he reports. One of my contacts spotted them heading south toward the highway. So we're safe? For now. But they'll be back. Victor doesn't give up easily. Emma considers this. The endless cycle of running and hiding, always looking over one shoulder. Is this really the life she's choosing? But then she looks at Marcus, at the weariness etched into his features, at the determination that refuses to die in his grey eyes. He's not running anymore. He's fighting for something better, and somehow she's become part of that fight. What's our next move? She asks. Marcus looks surprised by the question, or perhaps by the hour embedded within it. The airstrip I mentioned. If we can get there tonight, we can fly out by morning. Head to Oregon. I have contacts there who can set us up with a new base of operations. Oregon sounds good. I've always liked Oregon. You've been to Oregon? Once for a conference, Portland. It rained the entire time, but I loved it anyway. She smiles at the memory. Daniel hated it, said it was too gloomy. What else did Daniel hate? The question catches her off guard. She thinks about it, really thinks, for the first time in years. Adventure, she says slowly. Uncertainty. Anything he couldn't control or predict. He used to plan our vacations down to the minute. Every meal scheduled, every activity researched. If something went wrong, he'd spiral into frustration. Sounds exhausting. I thought it was romantic. Attention to detail. Someone taking care of everything. Emma shakes her head. I didn't realize until now that it was about control, not love. He wasn't planning for us. He was planning to keep me exactly where he wanted me. And you let him. It's not an accusation, just an observation. But it stings anyway. I let him, she admits. Because it was easier. Because I was afraid of conflict. Because I'd convinced myself that this was what partnership looked like. Now you know different. Now I know different. The afternoon passes slowly. They share the remaining food from Marcus's pack, ration water, talk about everything and nothing. Emma learns that Marcus's mother died when he was 12, that he has no siblings, that he learned to fly at 16 and knew immediately it was his calling. Marcus learns that Emma studied business because her mother thought it was practical, that she secretly wanted to be a writer, that she once spent an entire summer reading Russian novels. War and peace? He asks. Crime and punishment, she replies. Seemed appropriate. He laughs, a genuine sound that transforms his severe features into something almost beautiful. As sunset approaches, they prepare to move. Emma checks her boots, adjusts her pack, makes sure she has everything she needs. She's becoming efficient at this, she realizes. The scared bride, who sobbed on a stranger's plane, is fading, replaced by someone harder, stronger, more awake. "Ready?" Marcus asks. "Ready." They exit the cave into the golden light of evening. The forest is quiet, bird song replacing helicopter roar. They walk in companionable silence, Marcus navigating by instinct and Emma following with growing confidence. 3 hours later, they reach the airstrip. It's exactly as Marcus described. Small, unofficial, carved out of a mountain meadow. A single hangar sits at one end, doors closed but lights visible through the cracks. "Wait here," Marcus instructs. "I'll check if it's clear." He disappears into the shadows, moving with a stealth that reminds Emma just how dangerous this man could be if he chose. She waits, barely breathing, until his silhouette reappears and waves her forward. Inside the hangar, a small prop plane waits. It's older than the aircraft that crashed, but well-maintained. A man in his 60s stands nearby, wiping his hands on a rag. "Marcus," he greets. "Heard you had some trouble." "Nothing I couldn't handle, Carl. This is Emma. Emma Carl Wilson, best mechanic in 3 states. Carl nods at Emma, his weathered face kind. "Ma'am, pleased to meet you." "Likewise." "She's ready to fly," Carl tells Marcus, gesturing to the plane. "Topped off the fuel, checked the systems. You should have smooth sailing to Oregon." Marcus clasps the older man's hand. "I owe you, Carl." "You don't owe me nothing. Your daddy saved my life once. Figure I'm still paying that back." Another piece of Marcus's history, Emma thinks. Another connection forged in the shadow world he's trying to escape. They board the plane, Emma taking the co-pilot seat this time. The interior is sparse but functional. Marcus runs through pre-flight checks with focused efficiency, and within minutes the engine roars to life. "Hold on," he says. "Mountain takeoffs are always interesting." The plane rolls down the makeshift runway, gaining speed. Emma grips her armrest as they lift off, the ground falling away beneath them. Through the window she watches Montana's mountains recede into darkness, taking with them her old life, her broken marriage, the woman she used to be. Ahead lies Oregon, a new beginning, and something she never expected to find in the wreckage of her honeymoon. Hope. Oregon welcomes them with morning fog and the scent of pine. They land at another small airstrip, this one belonging to a property outside Eugene. The house is a renovated farmhouse, larger than the Montana cabin but equally isolated. Gardens gone wild surround it, and somewhere nearby, Emma can hear the rush of a river. "Welcome to headquarters," Marcus says as they approach the front porch. "It's beautiful." It's a work in progress, like everything else. The next few weeks blur together in a rhythm of work and discovery. Marcus throws himself into building his legitimate charter business, making calls, meeting contacts, filing paperwork that establishes him as a law-abiding citizen. Emma dives into organizing everything, creating systems where chaos once reigned. They complement each other naturally, his vision balanced by her attention to detail. They don't discuss what's happening between them. The lingering looks over morning coffee, the accidental touches that aren't quite accidents, the way conversation flows like water, easy and essential. Emma tells herself it's too soon. Her marriage isn't even officially over. Whatever she's feeling is just gratitude, adrenaline, the bond that forms between people who survive danger together. But late at night, lying alone in the room Marcus gave her, she knows it's more than that. Victor Castellano doesn't forget them. Reports filter in through Marcus's network, men asking questions in Montana, searches expanding into neighboring states. But for now, they're safe. The Oregon property isn't connected to Marcus by any official records. Carl and his contacts have kept silent. They have time, not forever, but enough. Emma calls Sarah regularly now, vague explanations about needing space, about re-evaluating her life, about meeting someone who's helping her see things differently. Sarah is suspicious but supportive, agreeing to keep Emma's location secret even from their extended family. "You sound different," Sarah says one evening. "Stronger." "I feel different, like I'm finally waking up." "Just be careful, okay? Whoever this guy is, don't lose yourself again." "I'm not losing myself. I'm finding myself. There's a difference." Daniel becomes a distant figure, more symbol than person. Emma files for divorce through a lawyer Sarah recommends, citing abandonment. There's no contest. Daniel, wherever he is, doesn't respond to the paperwork. The marriage that ended before it began will be officially dissolved within months. One evening in late October, Marcus finds Emma on the back porch, watching leaves drift across the garden. He carries 2 mugs of hot cider, settling into the chair beside her. "Penny, for your thoughts?" he asks. "Just thinking about how strange life is. 2 months ago, I was planning table settings for my reception. Now I'm helping run a charter business in Oregon with a man who used to work for the Mafia. Former Mafia associate," Marcus corrects. "Important distinction. Is there a difference?" "I like to think so." They sip their cider as twilight deepens. The river sounds closer in the quiet, its steady rush a constant backdrop to their days. "Victor's men have stopped searching Montana," Marcus says. "My contacts think he's shifting focus to other problems." "So it's over?" "Nothing's ever completely over with men like Victor, but the immediate threat has passed. We can breathe." Emma absorbs this news, trying to identify what she feels. Relief, certainly, but also something unexpected. Disappointment? The danger has given her an excuse to stay, to postpone questions about what happens next. Without it, the future becomes uncertain again. "What will you do?" she asks, "now that you're not running?" "Keep building. The business is starting to take off. I had 3 legitimate contracts last week alone." "That's wonderful." "It is." Marcus turns to face her. "But I keep wondering what you'll do, now that you're not running either." The question hangs between them, heavy with implication. "I don't know," Emma admits. "Part of me thinks I should go to Seattle, be near Sarah, figure out who I am without a husband, without an emergency, without me?" She meets his eyes. In the fading light they look more silver than gray, like moonlight on water. "I don't want to be without you," she says. The words come before she can stop them, raw and honest and terrifying. "But I don't know what that means. I don't know what I have to offer. I don't know if what I'm feeling is real, or just gratitude, proximity, trauma bonding." "Yes, all of that." Marcus sets down his mug. He reaches out and takes her hand, his fingers interweaving with hers. "I've thought about this," he says quietly, "every day since we left Montana. What this is, what it could be, what it shouldn't be. And I don't have answers either. But I know that I've never met anyone like you, Emma, someone who looks at the worst parts of me and sees something worth saving. Someone who could have run 100 times but chose to stay. You saved my life. Maybe. Or maybe you saved mine." The moment stretches, crystalline and fragile. Emma feels herself trembling, not from cold but from the enormity of what's happening. She's standing on the edge of something, a precipice into unknown territory. "I'm scared," she whispers. "So am I. I don't want to make another mistake. Neither do I. But if we don't try, we'll never know." He lifts her hand to his lips, pressing a gentle kiss against her knuckles. The gesture is tender, almost reverent, so different from Daniel's possessive touch. "Stay," Marcus says. "Not because you have nowhere else to go, not because it's safe or convenient. Stay because you want to, because whatever this is, we deserve a chance to find out." Emma looks at him. This man who emerged from darkness and violence to offer her light. This man who carries his father's legacy like a burden and is determined to transform it into something worthy. This man who makes her feel brave enough to risk again. "Yes," she says, "I'll stay." The kiss that follows is soft at first, tentative, 2 wounded people learning to trust again. Then it deepens, becomes something fierce and certain, a promise made without words. When they finally pull apart, Both are breathing hard. "I should warn you," Marcus says, a hint of his rare smile playing at his lips. "I'm not easy to live with. I'm moody. I work too much. I forget to eat when I'm focused on something." "I'm worse," Emma counters. "I organize things obsessively. I talk to myself when I'm stressed. I have strong opinions about proper knife technique in the kitchen." "Sounds like we're doomed." "Absolutely." They laugh together, and the sound rings out across the darkening garden like a bell announcing a new beginning. That night, Emma moves from the guest room to the master bedroom to Marcus's side. They don't do anything more than hold each other, but it's enough. More than enough. It's everything she didn't know she needed. In the morning, she wakes to find him watching her, those storm-grey eyes, soft with something she's only now allowing herself to name. "Good morning," he says. "Good morning." "Any regrets?" "Not a single one." They rise and face the day together, and for the first time in longer than Emma can remember, the future doesn't feel like something to fear. It feels like something to build. Together. Winter comes to Oregon with gentle rains and early darkness. The charter business grows steadily, word of mouth spreading among search and rescue teams and rural communities who need reliable air transport. Marcus flies missions while Emma manages the back end, scheduling and invoicing and coordinating with clients who quickly come to trust her competence. They fall into a rhythm, not unlike marriage, but without its weight. Partners in every sense, learning each other's quirks and habits, building something from the ground up. Emma discovers that Marcus hums off-key when he's concentrating, that he reads history books before bed, that he makes the world's best pancakes on Sunday mornings. Marcus discovers that Emma color-codes everything, that she cries at dog food commercials, that she has a laugh that could light up the darkest room. Sarah visits for Thanksgiving, meeting Marcus for the first time. There's an initial coolness, protective sister instincts on high alert, but by the end of the weekend, even Sarah has softened. "He looks at you like you're the only person in the world," she tells Emma as they wash dishes together. "Daniel never looked at you that way." "I know." "Are you happy?" Emma considers the question carefully. Happy. Such a small word for everything she feels. "I'm becoming happy," she says finally. "I'm learning what it means." Christmas arrives with unexpected snow. Marcus surprises Emma with a small tree, decorated with ornaments he admits to ordering online in a panic. She surprises him with a leather flight journal, handmade, his initials embossed on the cover. "For the legitimate flights," she explains. "The ones worth remembering." He pulls her close, holding her tight. They're all worth remembering now. New Year's Eve finds them on the porch again, wrapped in blankets, watching fireworks explode over Eugene in the distance. A new year stretches before them, full of possibility. "Any resolutions?" Emma asks. "Just one. Don't let go of what matters." And what matters? He turns to look at her, and in his eyes she sees everything. The pain he's overcome, the hope he's learning to hold, the love he's finally allowing himself to feel. "You," he says simply. "You matter." The word love hasn't been spoken yet. Neither of them is ready, both too cautious, too aware of how easily such words can be misused. But it's there, woven into every gesture, every glance, every morning they wake up beside each other. In February, word comes through Marcus's network. Victor Castellano has been arrested. Federal charges, racketeering, enough evidence to put him away for decades. The empire that once threatened them is crumbling, its tentacles retracting, its power dissolving. "It's over," Marcus says, reading the encrypted message. Really over. Emma feels the relief wash through her, but also something like gratitude for the journey that brought them here. Without Victor's threat, she might have flown to Seattle that first morning and never looked back. Without the danger, she might never have discovered who she could become. "What do we do now?" she asks. Marcus grins, a full, genuine expression she's seeing more and more. "Whatever we want." They expand the business, adding a second plane and hiring a part-time pilot. Emma establishes a non-profit arm, providing emergency transport for rural communities that can't afford commercial options. Marcus takes on training contracts, teaching search and rescue techniques to new pilots. Their life together becomes a tapestry of purpose and partnership. In April, Emma's divorce is finalized. A piece of paper that means almost nothing and everything. She frames it and hangs it in her office, not as a reminder of pain, but as a marker of how far she's come. "You're officially free," Marcus observes when he sees it. "I've been free for a while," she replies. "This just makes it legal." Spring brings the anniversary of their meeting. 1 year since a plane crashed in Montana mountains. 1 year since a heartbroken bride found herself in the hands of a man she had no reason to trust and every reason to fear. They mark the occasion with a private flight over the Oregon coast, just the two of them and the endless sky. Marcus banks the plane over a beach where seals sun themselves on rocks, where waves crash in eternal rhythm against the shore. Emma watches the view, overwhelmed by the beauty, by the improbability of this moment. "I have something to tell you," Marcus says, his voice coming through the headset. Emma's heart stutters. "Good or bad? Depends on your perspective." He levels the plane, putting them on a steady course. "I talked to my contacts last week. Victor's people are completely scattered. The organization barely exists anymore." "That's good news." "It is. It also means something else." He pauses. "I'm not in hiding anymore. For the first time in 8 years, I can live in the open, use my real name, build something that's completely clean." Emma absorbs this. "That's wonderful, Marcus." "But here's the thing." He turns to look at her, holding her gaze despite the controls demanding attention. "I don't want to build it alone. I want you with me. Not as a partner or a co-owner or whatever practical word we've been using. I want you with me as my family." The words hang in the air, weightier than clouds. "What are you saying?" Emma whispers. "I'm saying I love you. I've loved you since that first night in the cabin when you looked at me like I was your only hope. I'm saying I want to spend the rest of my life proving I'm worthy of that trust." Tears slip down Emma's cheeks. Happy tears. Healing. Tears. The kind she never knew existed before Marcus Donovan flew into her life. "I love you too," she says. "I think I have since that same night. When you told me some men don't deserve what they're given, and I realized you were nothing like the man who left me." Marcus reaches across the cockpit and takes her hand. The plane continues its steady path, two people suspended between earth and sky, between past and future. "Marry me," he says. "Not now, not until you're ready. But someday. When you can look at a wedding without remembering pain, when you can say vows and know they'll be kept. Marry me." Emma laughs through her tears. "You're proposing in an airplane." "Seemed appropriate. This is where we met." "Technically, we met in a different airplane, one that crashed." "Details." She squeezes his hand, love flooding through her like light through clouds. "Yes," she says. "When I'm ready. When we're ready. Yes." They land as the sun begins to set, painting the sky in shades of gold and rose. Walking back to the farmhouse hand in hand, Emma reflects on the strange journey that brought her here, a wedding that ended before it began, a storm that nearly killed her, a man who saved her life and then gave her reason to live it fully. 6 months later, they marry in the garden behind the farmhouse. Sarah stands as maid of honor. Carl walks Emma down the makeshift aisle. The ceremony is small, intimate, everything their love has proven to be. "I, Marcus, take you, Emma, to be my wife," he says, his voice steady but his eyes glistening. "To stand beside you in storms and sunshine, to build something real and true with you, to love you without condition or reservation for as long as I breathe. I, Emma, take you, Marcus, to be my husband," she replies, "to trust you with my heart and my future, to face whatever comes together, to choose you every day for the rest of our lives." When they kiss, the gathered witnesses cheer. but Emma barely hears them. She's too consumed by the feeling of coming home, of finding harbor after the longest storm. That night, after the last guest has left and the last candle has burned down, they sit together on the porch where so much has been shared. "Any regrets?" Marcus asks, echoing his question from months ago. Emma leans into him, feeling his warmth, his strength, his absolute presence. "Only one," she says, "that I wasted so many years with someone who couldn't see me, who never knew me, who left me alone in a hotel room with a note that couldn't begin to explain. And now? Now I understand that sometimes the worst moments of our lives lead us to the best. That being abandoned on my honeymoon was actually a rescue. That crashing into your life was the luckiest thing that ever happened to me." Marcus pulls her closer, his lips brushing her hair. "You've saved me too, you know. Given me something worth protecting, worth changing for." "I know." They sit in comfortable silence as stars emerge overhead, the same stars that witnessed their first meeting, their growing trust, their careful love, the same stars that will watch over whatever comes next. Emma thinks about the woman she was 1 year ago, naive, controlled, afraid. That woman could never have imagined this life, this man, this joy earned through trial. She thinks about her mother, who always said that strength comes from surviving what you thought you couldn't. She thinks about Sarah, who never stopped believing in her. She thinks about the little girl inside who dreamed of romance and adventure, and found both in the most unexpected way. Most of all, she thinks about the future stretching before them, the business they'll build, the lives they'll touch through their work, the family they might create, children who will grow up knowing that love isn't about perfection but about showing up, about choosing each other, about rebuilding after every fall. "Marcus," she says softly. "Yes?" "Thank you." "For what?" "For being exactly who you are, for seeing exactly who I am, for giving me something I thought I'd lost forever." "What's that?" Emma smiles into the darkness, her heart full to bursting. "Myself." And somewhere in the mountains of Montana, a crashed plane sits in a clearing, slowly being reclaimed by the wilderness. It's a monument to disaster, to the day everything went wrong. But Emma knows better. It's not a monument to disaster. It's a monument to beginning. To the moment when a woman who thought she had lost everything discovered that the best was yet to come. If you have watched this far, it is because you like this story. Leave a comment saying, "I have watched this far," so I can get to know you and see who really enjoys the stories here on the channel. If this story touched your heart, please give it a like. Your like tells the channel that you want more stories like this one. And if you know someone who needs to hear that sometimes the worst moments lead to the best, share this video with them. Finally, if you are not yet subscribed to this channel, now is the time. Subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss another story of hope, redemption, and love that conquers all. Because here, we believe that every ending is just a new beginning in disguise. Thank you for being part of this journey. Until the next story.